Hello, folks. I go chat family. Good evening. Welcome to another I go chat, and thank you all for joining us and participating this evening. Um, for anybody who's new to this is I go chat, and we talk about all things goat in mostly on the Jamaica side of things, the Jamaica goat sector and small farm operations. This evening, we're going to talk about the process, the the details and the inside information on importing animals to Jamaica. And give me a thumbs up if my audio is good, if you guys can hear me clearly, if there's no issues. Um, am I clear? I don't see no thumbs up. That means people ain't hearing me. Um, hmm? Okay, that's good. Anyway, so this evening, as you guys know, we tell you guys everything. So we've done import the beginning of the year, beginning of 2023, and we assisted with the second one for Unity, and then we do another shipment the end of 2023, which in part was with other farmers, and we just help them streamline the process and take care of the details. However, we were able to do this because we went out and found ourselves a partner in the US that we trusted, that we can work with. And he's no stranger to iGo Chat because he's been on iGo Chat, right? He came on last year before, not 2023, 2022. He was on the show. And that's the one Mr. David Carwell from B&D Genetics. So let me give you guys a little backstory on B&D Genetics. In 2020, we were trying to get embryos and semen, right? We did the application, we got the permit, everything. When we were shopping around to find a company that would facilitate the order based on what the requirements are, we ended up with B&D Genetics. If you guys remember, we had the lady from B&D Genetics on iGo Chat. The only reason we didn't actually purchase semen or embryos from them was because they inked a exclusive deal with Nutrimix. So Nutrimix, those semen that Nutrimix imported back then came from B&D Genetics. And the person who collect those semen and all of that is David Carwell. So without any further delay, we're going to introduce you once again to Mr. David Carwell of B&D Genetics. David,
How you doing, Ray?
I'm good. We're like close family brethren now. I don't know if you know what
Very,
that means.
very close. I think that I should have chose to come see you now. I think it's going to be zero on Monday here, and not sure exactly why I'm here right now. And I'm not back in Kingston like I was at the beginning of the month or in December.
Yeah. So,
So
folks, we a shipment came down in December, but I think the beginning of December, second week of December, somewhere around there, and
so
they followed his shipment to Jamaica, and he was here for a few days checking out where the animals are housed, checking out his cost checked meeting with his customers, went to the VSD to meet with Dr. Watson. This man is invested in making sure that the animals that he sends to Jamaica are healthy, and make sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and to make sure that he can meet the requirements that the VSD lays out. And if he has a problem, the man show up directly at the VSD to address it with Dr. Watson. So he is serious. So you were here for a few days in December. We hung out for a little bit. We had, a couple drinks, and you came to the ranch.
I
We went,
did.
took you over to the quarantine facility so you could take a look and all that stuff. What is your impression?
I obviously I had been to Jamaica before, but I had never been in much of the agriculture side of things. I was, in Ocho Rios, more of the resort towns. People from where I'm from, we think of Jamaica, we think of beaches, right? We think of resorts, literally taking it easy, that sort of stuff. Being in Kingston this time, being more of the business side, and then being with the agriculture, the government side, then going out to your facility. You guys are really not much different than rural America is, to be all honest. You're just further away. You obviously have different resources. I mean, you have some advantages that we don't have. You have some disadvantages that we have advantages over. So I think it's a pretty good balance. I think the food's
Except
wonderful. I'll tell you.
our dollar is not as strong, so our economy is not as
Well,
robust as
that
the United States. But I've always told people that don't look at like the rural area of Jamaica. I'm like, a lot of people out here are blessed because, trust me, I've been through some rural areas in the U.S. and they really don't care if you have running water.
that's
They don't even care if you have power.
Ray, I went to the grocery store across from my hotel. You guys came there. You guys have access to pretty much everything that we have, really. I mean,
Yep.
I walked through the whole thing. And the sad part is that you guys have access to stuff that we don't have, especially where I live. I think that
Yeah.
I ate better, and I mean that from a health standpoint while I was down there. It was fresh. Everything I ate seemed like it was fresh, um, healthy for you. It's obviously it was very delicious, and so I think it's just one of those things to where you just need to weigh the options and the odds on what you're looking at and what you're trying to do. Um, you know, I think from an animal standpoint, I talked to Khalil. I asked him about feed ingredients. You guys do have to almost import everything as to where we can produce it here in the United States. But your feed cost, when I talk to him, is about the same as it is here. There's
Yeah.
really and having to import everything, and you're still costing about the same as it does here in the United States. Uh, I looked at your place, Ray, and what you were doing with rotational graze. I'm looking at them like this is ideal. I mean, with what you could do with the amount of forage that you had, and you have it year around, as opposed to where we live here in the United States and don't have that opportunity. Our cost
That's
goes
true.
up. Our
Yeah.
cost can go up to where you guys may be able to do other grazing and other opportunities, that we don't have. And so, but highly impressed overall, Ray. To be honest with you, little frightened a couple times while riding in pickup, going places. Got awful close to a mountain wall. It seemed like with Khalil once, but you know what? I made it, and we made it back, so we're all good.
I assume you're speaking of Junction, the famous Junction. But
I
hey,
don't
man.
know where it was. I really don't care, but it was a little tight.
Yeah. Okay, so let's remind the people of who David is and what does David do.
Right.
Just give them a brief rundown on what you do.
Right. So again, I'm David Carwell. I grew up here in this location where I'm at in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. To help everybody out, if you know where Memphis, Tennessee, if you ever heard of Memphis, Tennessee, I'm about an hour west of there. And so we, went to school at Louisiana State in Baton Rouge. Got my master's degree in reproductive physiology. and with the highly trained professionals there. One of the top programs in the country. I actually talked to my old professor the other day, one of them, and I told him, I said, I really don't understand what you guys put up with me when I was 21, 22, 23 years old, but highly trained. It's not their fault for my ignorance on things. I can promise you that. But so started in the human field, believe it or not. I worked in a human andrology lab doing semen analysis and different things with men patients. And so there's a lot of my colleagues that went to school with me that work in the human field and human in vitro fertilization. That's not for me. I'm a farm kid at heart. We grew up raising row crops, rice, particularly here where I'm from. So the transition phase to move into what I've always wanted to do, which was animal reproduction, took a little bit of time. Me and Brittany were married at that time. We were both working for the state of Arkansas, and just it's one of those jobs. It's a great job. It's low pay, but really good benefits and time off. So you're able to do things kind of to get things in the process and on. You have time to build on the side. Once we were
Okay.
big enough, we were able to do that. We were 100% domestic. When I say that, I mean we did no international business, and so artificial insemination, semen collection, embryo transfer, uh, that sort of thing. And I don't know where the tipping point was, to be honest, but we had customers calling wanting us to export semen. We had facilities, but we were never certified. And so we did some expanding. We got certified, and then that's how we kind of got going in the export market. Australia was definitely our biggest client base and probably still is one of my biggest client bases for semen. Uh, we do have an opportunity to get into Vietnam that we're working on now. It'll be the first time that frozen goat semen's ever been sent to Vietnam. And so I'm pretty excited about that. As far as exporting live animals, this was really a weird opportunity, a weird deal. I know other companies that did the goats. We worked with them in the past to do stuff, but it was a phone call. And I'll just be honest. I think Ray knows that I am very transparent about everything that I do, um, whether good or bad. But Damian Crawford was my first client in Jamaica, and we shipped just short over 200 to him. And it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. And just that amount of animals, the logistics, which we're going to get into, everything like that, And so one thing after another is snowballed. I think we're approaching around 600 ships since we started at the end of 2022. Well, I'd say August of 2022, excuse me. And so that was our first shipment. And here we go now, doing possibly 2 to 3 a year just to Jamaica. But I'll say this, we have kind of specialized in the Caribbean, so to speak. We've really kind of seemed like we specialize in the Caribbean islands. Working with Trinidad right now, Grenada, and St. Kitts, and obviously with our existing customers and maybe new ones in Jamaica. And so that's a little long winded, Ray. The backstory on
No,
that.
no, that's they people need the full details of what you do, how you do what you do. Um, so you mentioned the facility. We had an opportunity, Trudy and I, to go see your facility. And folks, I think B&D Genetics is like a good clinic. I would say doesn't look like a farm. It looks like a good hospital or a clinic. Everything is just so well laid out, very very clean, and it's like a health clinic. When you look at the things you have there, though, these what's that big tank outside? What's that
That's
called?
my liquid nitrogen tank, my
Yeah,
bulk tank,
yeah, and then you have a mobile
my
semen
mobile laboratory.
collection unit lab. Everything at that place is it's not a farm; it's a clinic, right? Maybe you should call it a clinic or something. or a
Well,
lab?
I think that's where people get a little confused, right? They always ask me all the time if I have goats to sell to people. I am not a breeder no more. When I grew up, this facility that you looked at, Ray, there was the original green barn on the other side, and
Yeah.
the blue building was more of a shop. And we bred animals, but I don't do that no more. I do have an ABJ number. I'm an ABJ judge. I was an ABJ board member. But as
Okay,
far as being a breeder,
let's talk a little about the ABGA. You were you were a board member, right?
I did. I represented Arkansas and Missouri.
Okay, I guess we'll get into that later. We'll get into the registration and stuff later. Let's talk about how what your process is of exporting animals.
Right.
Specifically, let's talk about Jamaica so people can understand that what we're talking about is what Jamaica's requirements are and how
Alrighty.
you handle it and how we go through the whole process from finding the goats to delivering the goats in Jamaica.
I'm gonna share. We're gonna do this. I don't know, Ray, if we're able to. I'd like for these people to be able to see these documents at one
We
point.
will we will figure it out.
Oh, I had it where it was working, and now it's not doing that.
Just
There
share
we
the
go.
screen
I
and
got it.
choose the document.
I
Yeah.
got it now. I got it now. All right. So this is a document that I kind of put together when me and Ray were talking. I'm going to kind of skim over it. I'm going to go down through it here so people can read it. But
Can you make it larger on the screen, on
well,
your screen, so they can read it? There's a line at the bottom of the document you can drag to make the text bigger.
yes or no?
No,
Is
there's
that
a
better?
line. No, there's a line at the bottom. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah, I got it bigger. Is that good, Ray?
yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at it too. So if I make a funny face, it's because I can't see myself in the camera. But um, I think when you're looking at it and from a broker standpoint and from an importer standpoint, there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration. Um, you need to understand your import requirements from your said country. We're going to look over those in a minute, but every country has their own requirements. Uh, as you'll see as we go down through here, I don't make the rules. The Veterinary Service Division in Jamaica, they make the rules and have the agreement with the United States, and that's what I have to abide by in order to get your international health certificate. And so when you go down through here and look, when you're looking at export broker, selection, you're going to pick somebody. What exactly is this person doing, right? What are they doing for you? And so you need to use someone, and I'm not, this is not a deal for me, but I just want you to know you need to use someone that has a good reputation of exporting, someone who has a history, someone who knows kind of has been down the road, so to speak. I am learning every day. Every time I do a shipment, I learn something else. I can't explain to y'all how important it was for me to come to Jamaica to just try to understand or see things a little more for my own understanding to try to do a better job in the future. And so their main job, though, is to isolate the animals under USD supervision. And so we have the official quarantine location, and that these animals will be brought into it. They will be isolated and not allowed to be around anything else. And so we will do the blood collection for testing. You'll also see that Jamaica requires us to do ectoparasite treatments, so lice, mainly ticks, that sort of thing. We have to do deworming protocols, fecal flotations from our veterinarian to prove that we do not have parasite issues. The main thing, though, that is a big deal, but the biggest thing is that these goats are disease tested based on Jamaica's requirements. And I'll show you that when we go through that here in a minute. And obviously, after that, we have to work with the freight forwarder. All of the animals going to Jamaica will be the embarkation port will be out of Miami, and we have to get them there within a certain period of time after we receive our health certificate. They will be examined again by a USDA official. Again, this is per Jamaica's permit protocol, and then they're put on the plane. And obviously, once they get into Jamaica, you have another situation to where you have to quarantine them again and do on-farm testing. The biggest thing that I have learned is that communication with your export broker is key. Things happen. I don't care who you are, how good you are. I really don't care. There's no way getting around it. We're dealing with animals. We're dealing with live animals. We're dealing with environmental conditions during parts of the year. We're dealing with animals that come from various farms and various management styles. And everyone knows that goats stress. I don't care if they've not been sick for 6 months at the farm. When they are brought to me, they are stressed. Now, we do the best we can as far as accompanying that and trying to alleviate that stress, but it's just not the case in all situations. So you need to, and I'm not talking about every day, but your broker needs to keep you up to speed when things are going on or if something happens. Like I said, they can become sick, they can get hurt, they could fail disease testing. I mean, I'm going to say it. I've had goats that have died during quarantine, and we've have to protocol that we have to follow in order to do that. Uh, it's not something that I take lightly, but we have to figure out what's going on, and so it's definitely not something that you want to happen, obviously, but it's reality. And so Ray and Trudy know that I am very big on reality. I'm very forward about that because I am about as transparent as they come when it comes to this sort of stuff.
That's
Animal
true.
selection. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
No, I say that's true.
Yes. Animal selection, I think, is something that can be done by you, the importer. You can choose to let your exporter do that. Um, you know, if your exporter does the selection, it needs to be based on your guidelines. It's your money. You need to remember that. And you need to be the one that gives them the go ahead. And you need videos or pictures to show them what these animals are and where they are. Depending on the time and when I'm doing things, if I'm in pen of goats, I like to do a live video, FaceTime with an iPhone, that kind of thing, so you can see, what I'm looking at. I want you to remember that not always is the export broker's job to pick you animals all the time. My job is to, or an export broker's job is a service to get the animals to Jamaica or said country healthy, disease tested, and in good shape. That's my job. So um, they can, like I said, they can get them for you. That's up to you on what you decide to do. I need you to remember that in the United States, that some of these pictures that you see of these goats are not the same goats. I need you to remember that these goats are fed outrageously amounts of grain. They're fed outrageously amounts of different types of supplements, and that when they come to export brokers' isolation facilities, we do not do that. I am not feeding a show goat. My situation is to make sure that they're healthy, they're in good shape, and that, again, they make it safely to the destination. So it is possible that you buy a goat that may be obese and she will be trimmed a little bit by the time you get her because that is not healthy. Now, she looked pretty when you bought her, but that's not what really needs to happen. And so, um, like I said, when you're buying from breeders in the United States, you need to buy from reputable people. You do that in country. In Jamaica, you buy from reputable people, I would think. You need to do that here. If you don't know, then you need to rely on someone you trust to make sure that they can A, put you in the right direction with the right people, or B, that they will be willing to only go to certain people that they trust in order to buy these goats. Now, That doesn't mean, did I lose you?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Okay. I didn't
I
hear anything.
muted my mic because I have these puppies making crazy noise out there.
Okay. That's fine. That's why I did. You,
Hmm.
you just need to make sure that you buy from reputable people. Again, that doesn't mean that things won't happen. You guys need to understand that even a good person in good situations sometimes doesn't always work out like we want it to. You just have to be honest. You have to take care of your clients, and that's what you need to do. Okay. And so, one of the biggest things that people want to know is about the cost. There is so many factors as far as cost and things. There is some things that are about pretty constant. But the main thing that I just gave you an example, and this is for us, when you look at it, you have an isolation, quarantine, a daily feed. Feed, water, hang the animals. Guess what? When you're in Jamaica, you do the same thing. You pay a quarantine fee while they're in Plum Point at the quarantine facility, and a gentleman feeds them according to your uh, paper that you provide him on how much he should do. The difference is you have to provide everything there, which is me. You pay me, and I provide everything here for them. And so the disease testing, which we will show you here in a minute, you have the testing. We also have veterinarians that have to be present when we're doing that. The freight. This is the biggest thing that people don't really understand. I live in Arkansas, or if you use another facility, you need to be aware or conscious of where you buy the goats at. If you buy a goat in California, it's going to cost you money to get him to Arkansas. If he's in New York, if he's in Minnesota, if he's in South Texas, you need to realize that you have to pay freight. If the goat's 1,000 or 500, whatever it is for easy math, the guys are probably going to charge between $300 to $400 to get it here. That's additional, and it's crazy. As far as the way freight prices have been here lately, with the economy and the up and down. But that's just the reality we live in. You also have freight to Miami from the isolation facility and to Jamaica via air freight. I'm not saying we will 100% use them, but I'm pretty sure I will always use Amerijet. I used Caribbean Air the first time, but I've used Amerijet every time here. They've always been pretty good. We were a little bit late this last time. I'm not real sure what happened. They were already there. They were on the plane. The plane didn't leave. But the funny thing is that the last shipment we did, I told Ray, I said, Ray, the goats are on the plane. They should be there, so and so. Ray calls me and like I swear it was an hour. David, the goats are here. I said, it's not possible. Like they just left.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, David, the goats are here. I'm like, you're crazy, Ray. I'm trying to enjoy myself. They're gone. And but they got there on time. So I think we were about 3 or 4 hours late this last time, but that was on plane. I don't know exactly what happened. Um, those freight charges,
They took a detour.
they might have. They might have went down to another island and come back. Uh, the freight for I will tell you this: you do not need to ship in December. You do not need to ship in December. What
Totally
I
agree.
learned, I'm sorry.
I totally agree.
Well, from what I found out, there is a exponential amount of shipping that goes on uh, at that period of time. And guess what? They will quote you a price, and then before you get ready to do it, they want more money. And so I don't think that that's a great idea. I don't really think it's necessary. Jamaica also has a little bit of limitations for December in the fact that they have a lot of horses usually coming in at that time. So keep that in mind. I do not like December. Freight charges are going to be higher via the air freight. Keep that in mind. Um, Freight forwarder, documentation, USDA vet fees, isolation fees. I showed up a day early. I showed up a day early to Miami. I took the goats myself this time instead of hiring someone. Again, I'm figuring out more of the process. Cost me more money. Be aware of that. Again, that's not on my clients. That's on me. Uh, we have crating fees. We have, again, freight. They charge us freight from the crating facility to, they call it vanning, to the airport. Everything you do, if you borrow a pencil, they're going to charge you for it. And so uh, there's just so many little knickknack things. Additional cost, we have ectoparasite treatments. We have to do this twice. Deworming treatments, fecal egg counts from our veterinarian. We had to do genetic testing on the goats, where we had to look for scrapie resistant genes in our goats. Uh, I have to have a veterinarian give me a intrastate, which is continental U.S. health certificate, quarantining the animals to the trailer to get them into Florida to Miami. So we have vet fees there. It's just one thing on top of the other. The USDA charges me, which is a big issue for me sometimes, trying to get these health certificates done and get them done appropriately. They go through them with a fine tooth comb. I will tell you this, I had to do 5 last time. 3 of them were approved without any correction. And then the other 2, I just had a number out of place and I had what goat switched around. So I was very proud of myself, to be honest with you, on that. But they charge a fee for that. Um, you know, I put underlying fees, treating sick animals. I don't, if it's 1 or 2 with us here, we don't really think much about it. I'm not one to nickel and dime you unless it's a lengthy thing. Especially if we represent the goats, if B&D Genetics represents the goats, then I think that I'm a little bit more responsible for how they go. And so if we have to treat one for said treatment or do something else, then I think that belongs on us. If you send me animals from people I don't know or I don't have anything to do with, and then we need to treat them extensively, then there might be some additional charges, but it just kind of depends on what it is. And so on the importation side, this is more Ray and Trudy's, but this is something that I kind of picked up from all of this. You guys have to understand that this is very difficult. It sounds cool. It sounds interesting. It sounds like fun. It's extremely stressful. Once you arrive on the importation side, you obviously have a customs brokerage. You have to go through customs. You will need everything from me, your airway bill, your certificate of origin. That's another thing my freight forwarder charges me for. Uh, you'll have to have that, the testing results, your import permits, if you have more than one, your commercial invoice. And Trudy has just about had it with me because I've had to change it and change this because I still can't seem to get it right. But you have to have all this documentation. You have to freight the animals, if I'm not wrong, Ray, at the airport. You're responsible to freighting them to the
Yes.
quarantine, correct?
Yes, we're responsible. It comes off the plane. We're responsible for transporting it from the airport to the quarantine facility. Responsible for taking it off the truck and unloading them at the quarantine facility.
Right. And then you have to provide all the hay feeders, all the waterers,
Yes.
all the feed.
Um, yes, we have to provide the hay, grain, water buckets, hay feeders, medication. No, mostly like stress mix and those things. And we have to have a vet on call in the event something went wrong with the goats.
We did, and I'll be honest with everybody. We used Dr. Patrick Graham this past time. I didn't. Me and him had kind of worked out a thing, and I didn't know he was going, but he showed up the day the goats got unloaded. He
Yeah.
was there when the goats landed, and
Yes,
I
he
was
was.
I was real happy with that. Um, we did a thing where he came a couple, at least I know he came twice. I don't remember how many
Yeah, he's
times he
been he's been on the offsite quarantine facility here. He's been here 3 times.
3 times just
Yes.
to check on everything.
Yeah.
So you have to do a minimum 14-day quarantine at Plum Point, and then you have to do another 14-day quarantine on farm,
Yes.
and then you have to be released. And
Yes.
so, um, folks, listen, there's a lot of things that can happen between. I had the goats for 40 days. They were in quarantine for 14 days at Plum Point. They were at Ray and Trudy's for 14 days. They just got out, what, Monday? Monday, right?
Was it Monday? Yep.
You were released on Monday. You got released on Monday. He
Yeah, they
came.
almost they almost did 3 weeks here
So it's
because of the holidays.
right.
Because they were
So
quarantined over the holidays, and then by the time VST is back in office, and it takes them a few days to
yeah,
draft, release, and do all of that stuff. So yeah,
I just want everybody to realize on this podcast thing or live stream that this is not easy. This is very difficult. There are very few people that do this. There are very few people that are willing to do what you guys did last time. Um, and it's a lot of coordination. You can kind of make it look easy at times, but I can promise you that it's not, because once you think you have it figured out, a wrench gets thrown into something, and you have to be able to adapt and you have to be able to do it. We're on a time schedule and a time frame. Don't have time for problems. And
that's
so,
true.
you know, we run into situations with goats, and do we have time to get them corrected before they leave? Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. You have to work with your clients. You have to talk to your clients. You have to tell them what's going on. They have to trust you and know that you're doing the best that you can. And you need to just make it. You need to just work with them. And that I think that's the biggest key. It's doing business internationally is no different than doing business for me in the United States. You take care of people whether you're in Jamaica or you're in Tennessee next to me. I don't really
Yeah,
care.
that's true. A couple of questions here. The process of the doing this health screening that USDA requires. Can you go over that in a little more detail so people understand what they're actually asking for, and how much of it is what Jamaica protocol requires?
Yep. Hang on. So this is available on the Agriculture Ministry website for Jamaica. And so if you go to the Veterinary Sciences or Veterinary Services Division, you go to importation of animals, and it's got one. It says sheep and goats. This mainly particular goes off of goats, and you can see at the bottom that this was updated again in October of 2023. This is the third version that I have dealt with personally. Uh, and I can understand that Jamaica has tweaked it a little bit. It's been for the better. I'll say this. I did tell Dr. Watson that. And um, so if you go down through here, you start really here with the Zunari certification. And so these are just some general statements. Is my mouse, can you see my mouse, Ray? Is it going
Yeah,
around?
yeah, we can
Okay.
see it. Yeah,
These are just general certification statements here. Like United States have foot, looping, Rift Valley fever. Those are all diseases that we've eradicated. And so that's a general statement pretty much, and it's pretty much for everyone. Uh, we have to source these animals from herds that have the following. They have not had brucellosis in their herd within 7 years and scrapie. We don't have scrapie in goats. We haven't had, I'm not saying we can't, but we have not had a positive case in a very long time in goats. Brucellosis, mainly melitensis, right here in the middle, is one that is mainly concerned with goats. It's actually more of a warmer climate type disease. Very hard to find that in goats. Um, Tuberculosis, Johne's disease, Madna Visna is going to be CAE, pretty much. Leptospirosis, contagious galactica. These are just different diseases that we have to certify that these herds have not had when we buy from them. So, vesicular stomitis is something that is mainly in horses. And so we have to be aware of where we're purchasing these animals and if they've had this issue. I'll give you an example. California had a case of vesicular stomitis this year in December. If I was to say I wanted to buy a goat in December, hooray, according to this statement here that my vets have to sign off on, that the USDA government signs off on, it says that you cannot have a positive case in 21 days or on the premise. So at least on the premise for the past 2 years. Um, Looking at Scrapey, this is a lot longer type stuff. This is going to be the one that we fall under right here that we do. You can see they're permanently identified to enable traceability to their establishment origin. When we use commercial animals that are non-registered, that would be their Scrapey tag. A Scrapey tag is a program in the United States where you are given a premise ID number and you have tags that are tied to that. In the event that an animal ever pop positive and that tag is in their ear, it can be identified and traced back to your farm. If you're using purebred animals, their tattoos in their ears is the other way to identify the herd of origin. If they were born at Ray's farm and tattooed and sold 12 times, they still have Ray's tattoo in his ear. That's the main thing. And so that's the thing that we really look for when we have to follow. We have to meet these codes, as you can see, this or this or this. And I have to meet this certification statement or I can't do it. And so as long as we meet one of those. Uh, Looking at goats, goats are to be tested for genetic resistance to scrapie with these alleles. Um, we did test these goats this year. We were able to get a waiver for some things on some of these goats, and so again, sheep is a little more common thing for scrapie, uh, but the goats they are wanting to be tested for the alleles. I don't necessarily think they're required to necessarily have um, all of the different types of alleles because goats are pretty much can't say that they're naturally resistant, but they do have some resistance to them. If you look here, if I say, Ray, I got to have these goats in quarantine for this period of time, this is why. Each sheep and goat must undergo a pre-export quarantine in a vector protected facility under the supervision of the USDA APHIS certification or veterinarian. At least 21 days prior to export or 28 days if the state has a common border or country considered infected with vesicular stomitis. If Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Missouri had an outbreak of vesicular stomitis while I was in quarantine, I would not be able to do 21 days. I would have to do 28 days. So really we like to go about 30. We need time to get things in, get it done. I don't want to keep them forever, but we need to be, shorter periods of time. Things can happen about a week to 10 days after they get here. That's when the bugs start coming out if we have a problem. And so uh, I like to have them about 30. I had these last ones 40, Ray, by the way. I don't know if you realize that, but I had them 40 days.
Wow.
So well, it's okay. I mean, it's just we had some other things we had to work through as far as with our permits and different things like that this time.
Yeah, I know
So
the permits were delayed because obviously
that's
they updated it. Yeah,
yeah,
updated the
yeah.
protocols. Yeah.
Jamaica's getting really, really strong on this part right here. They want to know that these goats do not have parasites or are highly infected with parasites prior to coming down there. To a point to where they say 14 days prior to entering pre-export quarantine, they want them treated, they want them tested, they want to know. Ray, this last time we had an issue with the permit and trying to get it. They were updating. I told them, I said, look, we can't meet these requirements. I went in, he said they gave us a waiver for 6.3.4. But what we did, Ray, is we went and we tested how many do we have to do? I think if you look down here, where's it at? We tested 15 right here. You have to test 15 animals. We tested 15 animals out of the group, and I sent that to Dr. Watson and told him that we didn't have any problems. So we were trying to comply. I say we complied, obviously, but we complied based on the waivers that we were given this last time. That's not to say that that won't happen in the future. And so you can see here that during pre-export quarantine, treated for ectoparasites, and again within 7 days of export before they leave, I have to do that again. Now, the testing, tuberculosis. We don't have tuberculosis really in this country. I mean, I haven't seen it in a goat, but this is where a veterinarian has to come. They inject the tail and they look for a reaction in 72 hours. So that's 2 vet visits. It's a federal deal. I cannot do that. The veterinarian has to be on site present. Blue tongue. This is a disease that is spread by biting flies and midge. You can see here we have to use a ELISA test or a PCR test. Now, it is possible for an animal to be positive ELISA and negative PCR. The ELISA test looks for antibodies. The PCR test looks if you actually have the virus. For COVID, you could get a quick test and it would show that you have antibodies, but you had to do PCR swab to see that you were negative. I will test positive for COVID antibodies because I've had it twice. I don't have COVID. So they're okay with the fact that if this animal has been bitten and ridden the virus, just like me, as long as they have not carrying it while you have them. Brucellosis, like I said earlier, never seen a brucellosis positive goat. This is one that they added, CAE, in goats. And again, like I said, Madnavisna, that's the sheep term, only for animals over a year. Mainly seen in dairy goats. Uh, the common thing you see in goats with CAE is the large knobby knees. Uh, I've never seen one. I've probably seen a couple over my time that were pretty bad, but generally speaking, the dairy goats, you need to buy from herds that are CAE negative certified. They test every year. There's no point in doing that. The main thing that they get CAE is that the kids nurse and they get it from the colostrum. That's where they get it at. And so there is there's some research shows that in utero it can be passed, and also in semen in the bucks. That was at a meeting I went to a couple. It's been more than a couple of years ago, but I haven't read much on that here in the past. Leptospirosis. This is more of a bacterial thing. We choose to just test the animals using the microagglutination test. You can treat them with 2 doses according to the permit with oxytetracycline. Um, really not that big a deal. It's something you can get rid of if they it does cause late term abortions, like you don't want a positive goat, but not something that's overwhelming.
So
They
how
added
long? Question: how long does it take to get through all of this to meet the USDA standards and Jamaica's standard? Is
if
this
we
a
were to get all the goats today,
yeah?
it would be a minimum 28 days. And since I've done this and started, it would take me, I would already have a lot of the health certificate filled out towards the end to where we would be ready to turn it in. That's 30 days, probably give me 2 days to get that back. When I get that back, the next day I'll leave, I'll go to Miami. That is 30, 32, 33. They'll inspect. 34 days they'll land in Jamaica. At the soonest, 30 to 35 days. That's when they start quarantine in my facility. Not trying to find them.
Okay,
Not trying to find what you want. I mean, like you've heard me tell you, Ray, we started isolation today. The earliest will be 35 days landed in Jamaica.
okay. All right, we got a couple of questions before we
Sure.
move forward. Um, Mr. Henry asked about registered paper. I assume you're talking about registration for if it's a purebred, full blood, whatever it is. Which one? Oh, are all goats sent with full paperwork? What does full paperwork mean? Are we talking about registration paper?
I would assume. I would assume he
Yes.
means this. So the American Boar Goat Association, we have several breeders now that are members in Jamaica. A lot of it's done online to where when you buy an animal, the owners can transfer them to you online. And so, uh, I brought the registration papers with me last time on said goats for everybody. And these papers, yeah, there's been problems before with some things, and they need everybody has issues, but there was a deal in the ABGA where they were crossing over into a new program, and some things got messed up and different things, and the breeders over here had to take care of it on some things. But yeah, I mean, I it need you need to if someone tells you they're selling you a full blood goat, I mean, there needs to be paperwork that shows you that. I mean, there's no other way of proving otherwise, Ray. I mean, we cannot genetically test the goats to prove that they are full bloods. We can parentage test them based on their pedigree if they're in the system, but that's the only way of what we're doing it. Um,
Okay.
so I don't know, Mr. Henry, if that's gonna how do we differentiate full blood animals from graded coming into the country? Because we're based on what I'm hearing, there's grades imported, but everyone is showing that everything is full blood. You need to just work with somebody that's, like I said, that you can trust, that knows that when they tell you they're getting you what they are, they can prove to you that they are, and that you can feel comfortable with what you're doing. I think. Um, I'll be honest. The first group of goats that I sent, that's what they wanted was more of a meat type animal, no papers. That's what he wanted, and we bought him some full blood bucks, and that's what he wanted, and he was able to see them, and he was actually here on the ground. So,
Okay.
um,
Gigi has a question here. I know we've had this conversation and we have made have allowances in our shipment for this. If someone pays for an animal and it dies before it reaches Jamaica or dies in quarantine here in Jamaica, do they get a refund? Can you tell them what we have done in our shipment to
right,
alleviate this problem or to help with this
yeah,
problem?
so I think that depending on where you're at, from my standpoint of things, I do not charge the full amount for the animals up front for the services side. Okay, let's break that down. I think that the clients need to pay for the goats, and they pay for the transportation to me because that's an upfront cost. And then we have an estimate, which it's not necessarily an estimate. I mean, if I give you a price, Ray, it doesn't matter what it costs me on top of that. If I give you a price, it's what it is. So we charge a percentage, and so that percentage is about 40% of the total cost that I give you. That gets you up to the day that they leave to go to Miami. Now, said goat dies prior to leaving. What do you do about it? Talk to your client. Here's what's going on. I think that as I've gotten through business, that yes, there's certain things that you need to do. You need to refund certain parts of it if they paid for it. I mean, I don't know about, I'm just being honest, the labor, if the blood testing's been done, if the feeding period has been done, that sort of thing, then you may be like, you paid 1,000, but you only used up $500, Ray, of what your cost was. Then the 500 needs to be returned to the client. You don't keep the other. You didn't deliver the product, and so, and or if you have a relationship with that person, you can make it up on another shipment. You can make it up later. Uh, you know, I think there's a variety of ways you can do it depending on the client, the exporter, and the import client themselves. But that's just something that's on a base to base. It can be different with every client. And so I don't know if there's a generic way of doing it, Ray, to be honest with you.
We
You just
did
need to,
the last couple of times we did an insurance.
yes.
In the event the animal
Hmm.
dies, the
Well,
client can.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that. You still need to. You still need to do stuff though, Ray. But yes, you can do insurance. Some people don't want to deal with the cost involved. But you know, we've moved here at my company that I think that we pretty much. I'll just be honest with you. We almost insure them ourselves now. I think that we do a good enough job that I'm not. I think that if something were to happen, that I'm going to take care of it. And so me and the girls talked, and I got tired of dealing with some of the insurance company. Some of the premiums were outrageous. And so, Ray, what we did last time when we did our kind of all inclusive deal, I just kind of looked at it and said, what would this cost if I was to outsource it? And, I'll just do it myself, kind of self insure, and we'll just do a really good job, the best we can. And if something happens, we'll take care of them no different than if they were insured and have to go through all the, so to speak, excuse me, BS with the insurance company. So
Well, that's a B&D genetics offering though. It's not.
we
That's just
we
how
we
you
I
do
am I am
business.
the I'll be honest with you, Ray. From now on, I'm the insurance. I will give you insurance on the go, personally. So I will say this, that we had a shipment to where we had some animals that couldn't go. The client of mine prepaid. He did not have to. That was on him. He did do that. And I gave him an all-in price, animal plus landed. I had three of them that could not make the shipment. Eyes watering, just it was really silly stuff. But there's times, Ray, too, when I will choose not to let them go, based because I said I don't want them to go because I want them to be in the best they can, and I refunded the guy's money. He ordered 36. He wanted me to get them. He wanted me to represent them, and so when I didn't deliver, then he gets a refund. So, you can do it that way, Ray, like I said, or you can, if you say, look, I'm going to do another shipment, then you replace it. Whatever you want to do. But yes, the insurance thing, I just, like I said, we've moved to self insurance, Ray. Um, I just think that we try to do a really good job here. We got a good team. And if something happens, then God willing, we'll just take care of it. That's just how you do
Okay.
business.
Okay. So Gigi has another question. Says, do all full blood American goats have ear tattoo, as David mentioned? If we get an animal without an ear tattoo, is that a questionable animal? No.
So the issue we've had here in the United States is that for their registration papers, they have right ear on their paper. That is their herd prefix. So I still have my ABJ number. Mine is CBGR. The left ear is the year code that they were born and a number. So even though they don't have an ear tag in their ear, it could be CBGR L52, and that will be on their registration papers. Some people are going to microchips that you just put under the skin. That's not necessarily a bad thing because some people don't do a very good job of tattooing and you cannot read it. And so the microchip number, if it's listed on the ABGA registration papers, then there's it's about the same thing. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not so far against the microchips, to be honest with you either. So
Okay. Um, any other question, producer, that we should address before we move on?
no, this is one that I like right here. Why is the price for goats more expensive once you make it known you want it for export? Can this person expound a little bit on this? Are you can they are you saying that you've approached people and you said you want to buy a goat and they told you it was more expensive because you want to export it? Is that correct? I know the answer to this, Ray. I just wanted to say it on here.
I think what they're saying is once some of the farmers in the U.S. discover that the animals that are being purchased are going to be shipped out of the country, the price goes up.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is about that is that that's a topic that really, really, really gets under my skin. Um, they can't sell them in the United States, so they think that they should charge you more money. Uh, you're already spending, you know, probably depending on the price of the goat, you might spend more money exporting the goat than what you paid for it. Okay, through all of this stuff, I want people to understand that you need to be careful when you talk to people about what you're wanting to do. I know for a fact that it happens. And I will tell you, I know for a fact that it's bullshit because there's no rhyme or reason why they should charge you more for an animal that you have to spend an exuberant amount of money to get it somewhere. It's not worth more because it's going to Jamaica. There's no, to think that is absolutely ridiculous. I would suggest to everyone, and I've told a lot of people in Jamaica this, in other countries, you need to rely on somebody you trust to talk to them. I would say, Ray, too, that it's no different. When I was down there, when I asked how much the cab was, it cost this. When the hotel called them, it was a lot cheaper. So, you know, which it's not a big amount of money, but I've seen it as much as 1,000, 15, $2,000 more when an out of country buyer has asked about the same goat that I literally talked to them about. Buck A, I said, Ray, I can get him for 1,500. That's what I'm paying for him. Ray calls and talks to him. Ray, we're gonna have it's 2,500. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. I have told the ABGA, I have told everybody, we have an opportunity for an expanded market in Jamaica. And guess what? The people of Jamaica are jumping up and freaking down to try to get these animals in the country because you have been not allowed to do so. And instead of working, maybe trying to move quantity, maybe saying, Ray, look, get 20, we'll give you a little bit of a discount, move quantity. They're just trying to screw you over in the first little bit and not talk to you no more. They're going to kill a market opportunity. It's not a good business plan. So I I don't have any I don't have much good things to say about that. Uh,
Okay,
I'm
so I
not
got a
trying to be
question. I got a
negative.
question for from uh, Paul, which Mr. Sayers here. This question. He is the CEO of the Jamaica Dairy Development Board in Jamaica,
Okay.
and he's a serious, like serious goat farmer. Like he is, he'll serious. He'll cut your throat serious goat farmer. That's how
Right.
serious he is, and he's a
Right.
Nubian guy. But I think he's asking in the interest of his government portfolio, do you have experience in shipping cattle?
I don't. I actually work with a guy. He's actually out of Chile. He specializes in cows. He
Okay.
ships 10,000 at a time. His last
Okay.
project, he was looking at 2,500 water buffalo from Brazil to China. He mainly specializes in dairy cattle out of the northwestern part, highly genomic, high milking Holstein Jerseys type cows. Um, I forget how many. I don't know how many he shipped to Vietnam. I don't remember the Middle East. It's a bunch. I do
Okay.
not, but I can put you in touch with somebody that can. That is out of my department. But I
Okay.
will
We
gladly
will,
help.
yeah, that will be helpful. Anything we can do to help, that would be great. Um, Gigi, do all goats come directly from farms or sales barns ever involved when purchasing goats to export?
I read you the protocol from Jamaica. If a goat come from a sale barn, you got a problem. I don't know if that's happened or not, but that's no, not with me. It can't. You cannot sign. You understand, you understand that this certification statement that I showed you is signed by my veterinarian. It's signed by the official USDA veterinarian in Oklahoma City for me, and is signed again by another veterinarian in Miami, stating that these things are said to be true. Those things cannot be said to be true if they are bought out of a self, not a sale, not a registered sale. Now, to be clear, not a registered sale, but a sale barn where Tom, Dick, and Harry can drop animals off and are sold at market value. That can't happen. No, absolutely not. They may be cheap there, but you cannot do that and export them. No way. No way, Ray.
Well, thanks for clarifying that because some people are under the impression some animals come from sales barn, animals that are shipped to Jamaica.
That's a problem, Ray. Major problem.
Any other question, Miss Producer?
Selective breeds have added precautions. We've shipped boars, we've shipped Nubians, we've shipped Sonins, we've shipped God, we shipped to La Manchas the last time. I've shipped Spanish. Uh, the Sonins are tough. The boars, for the most part, don't seem to be too bad. The biggest problem I have is with the Nubians. I just don't. They're not tough. They come from really good herds. We select from really good milking herds. They just don't seem to be as tough. They don't like stress. They don't like being away from another one. They don't like this other type situation. That would be my only complaint. They come from really good herds, really good genetics, but you just the Nubians sometimes can be a pain.
So,
Uh,
Ann Thomas has a comment here. Based on recent personal experience, I was able to source my goats at a better price by dealing directly with the farmers, all full blood. The goats that I purchased through the broker cost me more. I implore you to try and source your goats directly from independent farmers.
Fair enough.
What say you, David?
That's fair enough. You know, I mentioned it earlier in that document, Ray. My job is not to necessarily make money off of the goats. I do and can spend a lot of time looking, searching pictures, videos. I spent 4 months one time for a shipment. So it is a possibility that sometimes we will mark them up $50 or $100 tops, but that's all that we will mark them up if we do. Um, I haven't the last two. I haven't marked any. I think I didn't mark anything up this last time at all. So I'm
Well,
not here to
I'm
sell you
my
goats.
my my take on it is if you're gonna get a broker to do the work for you, then you should be prepared to pay the broker. So the animal is gonna cost more.
Well, I think what's happened though, Ray, is like the situation we just talked about. Uh, you know, said goat costs 500, but the broker charged them 1,000.
Okay.
I don't, I don't, I don't mind. That's a lot of. I mean, you add that up, Ray. I mean, if they're making 500-600 bucks a head or maybe more, a crate's got 35 in it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, like I said, covering just time really. I know that Henry guy, uh, you know, is mentioned. Uh, for time. That's all it really is for me is covering time. I got people that work for me. I've got to pay salaries. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. And how much time have we spent, Ray, looking, searching, doing, and then the people ghost me, and I never hear from them again. So I know that people feel like they've got maybe hosed on some stuff. If y'all knew how much time and effort we put into stuff over here and then just vanish,
I
you
know.
know?
We saw the facility. We know how much time goes into it.
Yeah.
And as I
Yeah.
told you from the jump, I am not that person that knows so much about goats that I'll go search for them myself. I would be the one who gets scammed. I would be that guy that they would sell a donkey as a full blood goat, so to speak. I would rather you go work with the people, talk to the people you have relationships with, and then send me the videos and the pictures. And I said, yes, I like that. Or when I get the pictures and videos, I'll send it to my gurus, and they would tell me XYZ, and then I come back and act like I know what I'm talking about and say, yeah, we'll choose that one.
Right.
But
I just
you
want
know
to
what I mean?
clarify something here. Howard Royce, as such man, said they can come from sales barn. Did he mislead? I don't know if he's referring to me. I can't
No,
speak
no,
for
he's
other
not.
people.
He's not referring to you. Trust me, he's not
Okay.
talking about you.
Okay. I cannot speak for other people. I'm telling you right now, you cannot sign those certification statements and that embarkation certificate and they come from a sale barn. There's just ethically you can't do it. There is no such thing as a Kalahari Red in the United States. I don't know where we keep going back to this. The Kalahari Reds are in South Africa. The red goats that you see here are red boar goats. I know that we hear that all the time from international buyers. I'm not saying anything bad to the gentleman that asked that. I'm really not. Just know we do not have Kalahari Reds here in the United States. They are red boar goats. Um,
So that's a great transition to ask your opinion on traditional boars, dappled boars, red boars, painted boars. The list goes on. What is your position? How do you feel about the diversification of the boar goats?
I think that the boar goat has went backwards in the past 10 years, maybe longer. I've been in the goat since I was 14, 2000, since 2001. So I'm 36 and I am a traditional boar goat person. Now, I'm not saying that it is impossible to get there is reds. I'm a little concerned about some of the dapples, but let me be clear to everybody there's no such thing as a black dappled boar goat. I think if you really think about it and you really look at it, I think it was a novelty thing. If you look in the beginning when they came out, they had no bone. By the way, Joe Bentley's on here. If you see Bentley Bros Farms,
There he
Joe Bentley,
is.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Joe won't cut me too bad on this probably, but they these animals had no bone, they had no width, they had small as far as the width, the bridge across their Roman nose was narrow. They had long floppy ears. Tell me what you put into these goats to make them black and dappled, but still have these boar characteristics, Ray. A Nubian.
Um,
A
I
Nubian.
a Nubian, right? That's the debate. That's the conversation they've been having locally. That the only way these animals can get this color and this look, it has to be a Nubian. A
Well,
Nubian
that's
has to
something to
be
be said
injected
about
at
Jamaica.
some point.
That's something said to be said about Jamaica right there, because they don't want to talk about it over here. But you ain't, you guys aren't ignorant to the fact,
Oh
right?
no, it's a strong, strong debate. Strong debate
So
here.
we can't
There,
prove it.
there's people who are saying the only way you can get it is if you put a Nubian in there.
Promise you,
Yeah,
promise you. Um,
scientifically, the only way it can happen. Well, Bentley,
yes, sir.
your friend Bentley, brought as
Traditional
far.
boar is a mutation, and it matched the true color of the goats. Joe likes his red goats. I like red goats. I'm not saying I don't. I mean, there's red goats in like in South Africa. I mean, you know, uh, we have to remember that these boar goats were put together in South Africa around the early 1900s. That's another thing that I want the Jamaicans to understand. Technically, there's no such thing as a full blood boar goat
Yeah, in South
because
Africa they just call them a boar, right?
the boar, but
A boar goat. Yeah.
well, they're not a heritage breed. They were goats over time put together to make them look like they wanted. Now they're 99.99999. But if you look in the cattle industry, we have purebred Herefords, we have purebred Angus, we have purebred this, purebred that. That is the highest ranking you'll usually get. Um, and so, we have some of the heritage hog breeds here, but there's not a full blood Angus cow, really. They're all purebred Angus cows. I mean, it's just purebred Jerseys, purebred Holsteins here in the country. So, but, you know, uh, it's 99.999, like I said. Uh, a Savannah to me, I mean, if you look at them, they're a white boar goat. So,
Yeah. So position is in the US, it's all mixed up. It's a melting pot.
I would say so. Absolutely. I would say so.
Okay.
To get back to your question, I'm heavily traditional. I'm old
Okay.
school. Joe can tell you that too. I like rugged. I don't like smooth fronts. I want a big head. I want to look like a man, big, tall, and wide, lower to the ground, wrinkled in the front. That's the kind of goats that I like. So
Wow. Bentley Brothers Farm say he likes them all.
Joe's
I
from
guess.
Kentucky. Joe's from Kentucky. He needs all the
Oh,
help he
he's a
can get.
Kentucky man.
He is.
Are we
Yeah.
talking? Are we talking about farming here? Or are we talking about college football or college basketball?
Joe. It's getting awful cold, and Joe's the kind of guy up there in Kentucky that they don't have shoes right now. So
You know that I'm gonna reach out to Joe to get him on the show, right?
Joe actually does a lot. Joe's a pretty smart guy. Me and Joe were at. Joe was on my. I was the head of the DNA committee for the American Boar Goat Association. Joe was on there with me. He's a science teacher who has a lot of knowledge about genetics and pretty clever guy, to be honest with you. He's sold a lot of goats internationally for as a breeder standpoint, and has a good breeding program, and he's pretty respected in the industry. That's the thing I'm talking about. When you're dealing with a broker, you have to be able to deal with these people you can trust. Like Joe is a guy I can trust. Joe's came to me with people. If I have a problem with a goat, I go back to Joe. Joe's going to take care of it. Like you have to work with these kind of people. I refuse to work with people that aren't going to do that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're talking about exponential sums of money here, people. It's not just I'm in Jamaica and it's costing this much money. It's a lot of money over here too, Ray. Like it's not cheap. It's not like it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
So what's the latest with the DNA testing of registered animals?
ABJ is they called me the other day. Uh Me and Joe, like I said, Joe's on my committee. We worked really hard to look at switching to Neogen. We got it approved last December by the board. Uh, Not this past December, excuse me, a year ago, December, excuse me.
2022. Yeah.
That's correct. And so we looked at moving to Neogen. They have more markers, genetic markers, to be able to identify certain traits in these goats. Um, they were supposed to do that already, and I think they've got some new board members, to be honest with you, Ray, and things are kind of in a mess. So who knows? What not
Okay.
everything me and Joe did for about 2.5 years is kind of standstill
So
over.
I don't know if you're willing to answer this question, but this is concern that I've had for a minute from I got into this whole thing, and we've been fortunate to have registered animals. Is if all it takes is to show paperwork that the offspring is from X sire Y's dam, then the offspring is registered as a purebred or full blood animal. That's not enough. In my eyes, that is not enough because is somebody coming out to check this animal? No. They just take it and issue a new permit, a new registered certificate
Yeah.
for the offspring saying that's what it is.
Well, that's the thing we went back and forth on is what are we going to require of DNA? How much requirements are we going to have? And all, in my opinion, if they are good enough to be registered, Ray, then they need to be 100% parent verified, top and bottom, and go on about your business. I
Yeah,
mean, why? If
in
they're good
Jamaica,
enough
they're
to
going
be
to be registering, people are going to be registering graded Nubians as full blood boars. I guarantee you that. As long as
you
they can
should
have access to a registered sire and a registered dam.
you should have, the problem is too, Ray, is some of the pedigrees, those animals are deceased if you use semen. But guess what? We can literally genomic test semen straws to get the genomics on a sire. And so there's no reason, again, understand that these people are wanting to sell you $2,000 goats, and they're the ones bitching about spending $40 on a genomic test. What sense does that make? You can add so much value by proving 100%, Ray. This is who it says it is. I have all the documentation, and it's genetically proven with the Neogen, the largest genetic company in the world. And that was my fight back and forth. Again, if if it's good enough to do this, why wouldn't you just spend the money? I mean, I get it, cost, but you can add value to what you're doing.
So, but the top breeders, they do, right? Or there's some breeders that just do the DNA test.
It's not required. It is not required. It's voluntary. The AVJ board would not approve it being required. There's 13 of us. You have to have majority.
So, what if for my own peace of mind, for the integrity of my own herd, I decide to do it?
You have the ability to do that. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. So, how
But
many?
we
But it's
cannot
only.
protect
Go ahead.
we cannot protect you from breeder B since it's voluntary if they do not do as they said, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We have
Hmm.
had situations on the board where animals were genetically tested and they did not match.
Oh. Oh.
Now, there is error that is involved in some of that testing. And so the company that we are with, they are still with. We are moving to that was another thing to move with Neogen is that the margin for error on stuff like that, Ray, was shrunk down a lot more and more it was a lot more accurate. And so that's another thing uh, you know, thing that we were looking at too.
Yeah, but the DNA testing, I can see the risks that some of these top breeders face with DNA testing.
I know, but Ray,
When their genetics are spread across the country, and only to find out that you bought semen or a couple hundred straws or from somebody, and then when you do the DNA test, those straws don't come from the top bulk.
there was a number of breeders that exited the boar goat industry when the DNA initially came out, Ray. I wonder why.
Yeah. So I don't know how much pushback that will continue to happen, but I'm pretty sure there will be continuous pushback on the DNA because it doesn't look good.
I understand.
Some of these expensive straws may not belong to these top books that they attach pictures to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So any other questions, folks, before we let David go? And I hope that there's some things that are clarified on this session for you guys about how the process works and, you know, how you should go about doing your due diligence and understanding the protocols that needs to be fulfilled in order for an animal to land in Jamaica.
You have to learn to adapt, Ray. You have to be
Hmm.
willing to have understanding about the process. You have to be willing to, you know, go with things and trust who you're working with. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. You have to establish that, you know, reputation should help you learn who you can work with and you can trust. And then you build your own relationship after that. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's true. That's why we drove 6 hours to come see you, so we could see for ourselves what we're dealing with and if it's worth going there. Any questions? Judy, you see any questions we should address before we sign off? Anybody have any questions? Now is the time to shoot your questions before we let David go. And
well,
David's
after that,
officially a part of the I Good family, so I'm sure he'll may do 3 or 4 appearances for the year. There's a big endorsement for you. And Mr. Henry, if Mr. Henry says that, I'm telling you, it's big. I would say any farmer importing goats in Jamaica should go with B&A Genetics. That's my pick for importation. I can tell you this much that we've been happy working with David from this jump. David is easy to speak to. We can tell him how we feel. We can agree to disagree. And it's been fine. And David actually came to Jamaica to see how it works here.
well, it was worth maybe not seeing you, Ray, but the what you Escovitch, the fish. What did you
Yeah,
Escovitch?
Escovitch fish. Yeah,
Oh, whew, definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
yeah. Trudy couldn't handle the spice, the pepper, but it was really
That
good.
that that hot sauce was hot. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. That hot sauce was hot.
Well, you're pouring it on like it's like ketchup or something, like
Well,
the
I didn't know it was gonna be that hot. Okay.
yeah, Jamaica don't play with their hot sauce, man. It's
No,
serious. It's serious
no, they
business.
don't.
But it was good to have you here. It was good to, see the commitment you have for what you're doing, and we're happy, and we have testimonials from, you know, other players involved in the last shipment. Everybody was happy, you
Right.
know.
Well, I want everybody to know, like you said, another reason for me coming is I wanted Dr. Watson, uh, McKinley, um, what's the other?
Martin,
Her name is
Dr.
Leslie.
Martin.
Just I did not see Dr. Martin. The ladies in the office that have to deal with me, um, I wanted them to see my face. I wanted them to know that we were serious in what we were doing. And I don't mind telling you, I told Dr. Watson, I said, I want to be the best person I can be to your country. I want to be the best exporter. That is my job. I need to be the best exporter in specializing in the Caribbean. And that's our goal. And I said, you need to tell me what I need to do to be better. You need to tell me what I need to do to be better. And so we had a conversation. Um, I do not mind constructive criticism. Um, I several of my clients too down there. We've shipped with Mackie Bartlett. We've shipped with Alfonso Miller. They have given me constructive criticism. I am not one to get upset with you over it. I will try to understand what you want me to do. You are my customer, and that's my job. Longevity, long term relationships. We've got like 3 years to get this done. 6,000 animals. Who knows what's going to happen after that, right? Is that my
Yeah.
understanding? Would you
Oh yeah,
concede that?
they once they get hit that mark, they may close the gate. They may close the gate before that. You never know. You never
Well,
know what it will take for them to close the gate. And if they feel that people are violating or not following the rules and augmenting the regulations or whatever protocols, they will close the gate. We all
Yep.
know that it's only one person that runs this. And if he decides, like, you know what, I'm shutting it down, it will get shut down. So it's very important that we adhere to the rules and understand what they are and respect them and just do what's required. We've done it. It can be
Yeah.
done. And if there's something in it that is an issue that can't be done, it's a communication level with the VSD to come to an agreement or a compromise.
They did. You or David Carwell that calls every day. I said, absolutely. I'm right here in the flesh.
Yeah, yeah,
I had them
and
on
I am.
speed dial. Trust me.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were happy for that because at least
Yes.
now they have a face to the name,
Well,
and yeah,
and that too, Ray, I have a I was talking to the landing officer while I was in Miami. I was sending her updates. The plane's late. This is going on. This is going on. I have communication with, I believe his name was Dr. Thompson the first time. And then the lady that we use, I'm going blank. I've got her name right here. Who's the landing off the lady that she's done our pass to? Um,
truly. Who did the last two?
the
Dr.
veterinarian,
Jackson.
Dr. Stacy Jackson. I literally was in communication with her, Ray, before the goats went to the crating. I sent her a video of them leaving. I sent her a thing and an update of the goats on Flight Tracker when it was late. And I got videos back from her. They're here. I saw the crates coming off the plane. You have to, that's what we do. I want to know. And we try to cultivate and maintain these relationships with these government officials and make them and keep them happy.
King
Okay.
James, King Jamaica. Let me King James. So let me give you a background. King Jamaica is one of the pioneers of importing animals to Jamaica. He imported the original. What's that? What's the line called, folks? Don't let me screw this up. Appleton's line, Magnum, the Magnum line.
Yep.
He imported that in Jamaica and direct offspring of the big Magnum buck.
Yep.
So he has a question: can I locate my own animals in Texas and have B&D Genetics handle the exportation process?
Oh,
And his answer is
absolutely.
yes.
No, 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 no. No, I don't. I don't have a problem. I would like to know where they come from. I would like to know, try to understand who they are, uh, because there's things that I may know that you don't know, and so there's just some things to look out for. I want everyone to be aware that there are people out there that are scammed. They're sending false pictures. They're sending false documentation. They are not real. They are not real. I can prove it. I've talked to them. They are not real. Please be
Yeah,
careful.
well,
If you're
I've heard the
interested,
stories.
the King's Jamaican, if you're interested, just say, David, it's such and such breeder I'm looking for. I'll say, you're good to go. Yes, I know who they are. If I don't know who they are and I've got about 3 people I can call and they don't know, they've never heard of them, you probably need to stay away. I'm just saying. I just want you to be careful. They take your money, you know?
Yeah, they will. And we've heard the stories. Hmm? Yeah, so if you want David's contact, just reach out to us and we will share it with you and make sure that everything is on the up and up. And just remember that, we operate on the higher level of over here. No risky business, no shady business, no crab walk business. We are straight forward when it comes to this because we don't want our names being called in a negative way. So we keep this straight. Any other question for David before we let him go? And David, the last time we did the a shipment, there was a group of people, of farmers, right? So the process in for the offsite quarantine is that it has to go to one central location. It can't split after
That's
the
my
after the
understanding.
after the government quarantine. The animals cannot be split up. They have to go to one farm for the offsite quarantine and do another 14 days minimum,
That's correct.
and then the animals can be dispersed. And there's rules to the animals being released. You can't sell the animals for 3 years. You can't just get rid of the animals in any way, shape, or form for 3 years. In the event an animal dies, you have to notify the VSD
Trudy had a
before you discard the animal.
Trudy had a pamphlet on that. She sent it to me, and I sent it to everybody. And I don't
Yes,
know where she got it from, though. I don't know if it's
we
on the
got it.
website or what.
No, we got it. It was being circulated from the VSD.
Okay,
When we get a letter when the animals are released from official release from quarantine that outlines the whole thing, how it works and what your responsibilities are. So you cannot turn around and sell an imported animal for 3 years. They need to know where those animals are at all times. They need to be able to track these animals. They need to know what the count is on the imported animals. They want to know the breed, the the what they call it, the gender, everything, because the permit breaks it down by breed and gender.
yeah, there's a lot there. Um, I think we had 2 pallets of goats, 5 permits last time, Ray.
Yes, so Mr. Henry, that is correct. The only way you can sell that animal is if VSD gives you permission to sell the animal.
It has
This
to do with the tax implications.
and the GCT, the waiving of the GCT is part of it. And you got to remember, this importation thing is part of a specialized government program called the Small Ruminants Improvement Program. It is not a general across the board thing. It is a special program and it's being scrutinized as such. So that's why the numbers are being tracked and where the animals are being tracked. I'm just telling you what the paperwork says. I don't know if them doing it or not. I don't know how much they're tracking it. I don't know. I'm just telling you what the paperwork says.
I wouldn't. I would try to keep them happy if I were you. So
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah. Well, no, no, that's not true. That's not true, Al. Not with this new protocol, because our first shipment was no GCT waiver, but it still says we need to keep those animals, imported animals, for 3 years, and if anything happened, we need to notify them.
well, I think what
So
they're
I
doing,
think it's
Ray.
based on the program. Hmm.
Well, think about this. People from Jamaica import said goat. They get a tax break on them, so to speak. Then they turn around and profit from them. That's what the government's saying. Like, we're going to give you a tax break for spending money and bringing in stuff, but you can't just turn around and try to sell them to someone else in Jamaica and make, you know, X amount of dollars without paying taxes on it. That's that's
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they're saying, right?
Yeah, so the GCT tax part of it, yeah, they don't want you taking advantage of that. But the new importation of these goats is a special program, and they want to keep tabs on it. They want to know how many animals come in and where they are. You know what I mean? And I asked the vet straight up, the VSC guy, I'm like, you're telling me I cannot? It says, I'm telling you what the paperwork says. If you're in a situation where you have to get rid of the animal, we're saying call us and let us know. Let us know. If your farm is closing down and you can't take care of the animals, call us. Let us know you're selling the animals so we know where the animal ends up. That's the thing. They're tracking how many
The Henry
animals and
guy
where the
too's
animals are.
probably right. Again, it's another traceability thing. So,
Yes, I am sure that's what it is. You know what I mean? Which I don't see a problem with it. I think it's fair for them to know where they're at with the numbers, how many animals are here, and who imported them, and where they are.
yep.
Um, I don't know what the penalty is because I never violated it, so I never even thought about it. So I don't know what the penalty
We
is.
don't really want to get to that point, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
If that was to happen over and over again, Ray, that gives them leeway to say, guess what?
yeah,
Shutting it down. So,
yes. But I will tell everyone right here now, if you're interested in doing this, you should take advantage of the program and just do your due diligence. This is why we do a show like this tonight, so people have full clarity on what it takes and what goes into it and the details of it. So when you're going in, you know what to expect. You know what you're dealing with. All right. David, thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this.
absolutely.
And we will definitely talk about the next shipment if I have the energy to deal with the next shipment.
Uh, I don't know.
But
Sometimes I wonder. You see this, Ray?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Didn't happen till start exporting. So, and
Sure.
now it's coming here in the side. So,
That's the
very
stress,
good.
man. You
All
because
right.
you're doing such a great job. But thanks again, and
Yep.
we'll talk soon. All right.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
All right. Bye bye.